So I'm really excited. I loved that they decided to do kind of two separate platforms, like one a little bit newer, one more advanced. So quick poll, so I have an idea because I will improv some of my content. Who has a venue open already within the first 5 years? Is anyone here in the process of opening, like they're in the process of opening it? Kind of the pre-process? Okay, perfect, because there's some stuff we can cover about, well, I don't have my venue open yet, how do I market it? So, good to know. So, one of the things we have to think about is as we're engagement season, so this visualization is really perfect for this. So, we're a couple, right? We just got engaged, we're overwhelmed. Everybody and their mom and their uncle and their cousin have an opinion, a real good opinion. And so they're trying to sort through that, they're trying to go through Instagram, they're trying to go through the Knot, Wedding Wire, wherever they're on. And they're trying to make really fast decisions because this is really overwhelming. And so when they land on our social or on our website or on our blog or however they come into our ecosystem, we have literally just seconds to capture them. And we know that as a consumer, nothing to do with the wedding industry. This is statistics that have to do with any type of shopping. You're in a store, you're not gonna sit there for 20 minutes looking at a pair of shoes. Well, okay, I do, but most of the time, right, you're gonna make a really fast judge decision. You're looking for a new hairstylist, you're gonna make a really fast decision. So we have to keep that in mind when we're doing our marketing, is that we're really marketing a long game because they're creeping and they're gonna take a lot of looks. But every time they look, it's only gonna be a few seconds, right? So how are we gonna get them inside of that ecosystem to help them figure out, are we even on their radar? Are we even on the short list? Or are we just one they're crossing off? Because at the end of the day, we can't market our business until we know how our audience buys. So I got my start in the industry in high school. I never looked back. I apparently got sucked in. Obviously, I am not the gorgeous girl in the dress. I'm the one putting on the shoes because I used to own a shop, I own a bridal retail, and how I paid for college was working in retail. So I went to a very expensive art school, had a ton of student debt, and how I paid for my books was I worked at David's Bridal. Anyone's ever been to a David's Bridal? You have 1 hour to sell to someone, to then upsell, to make your commission, and then you have to sell some credit cards to make even better commission. That's how I learned to sell, was literally sweating my butt off in a room with a naked person being like, is this it for you? And that's when I started to learn how important it was that I had to figure out these people that I'd never met before, these complete and utter strangers. So then when I finally opened up my own shop and then eventually got into marketing for my friends, I had to learn that we had to figure out their actual buying decisions before I could ever market to them. So when people come to me and they're like, Adrienna, I need you to market my business. Okay, cool. How do they buy? Because they're all gonna buy a little bit differently. And as a venue, you are going to be pretty early up. You guys have a pretty sweet spot. Y'all know that every other vendor wants to be you, right? Like they want to be that early in the buying decision. Like the number one thing I write about, venues. Photographers want to write about venues, planners want to worry about venues, they want to be on your list. You guys have this really special quality that none of my other clients have. They want to be with you guys, which means we have to think about that early in the buying. Because 60% of Gen Z think that digital first impressions are more important than in-person ones. And I know that we've kind of shifted the narrative. I know there's a great one about like open houses, but they're judging you online before they ever even care about learning about you or your venue or what it has to offer. So today we're gonna be talking about the questions and we're gonna break them down in like a sales funnel because I think it's really better for us to think about this as we go through step by step. Because whenever we're marketing, we're gonna have a lot of people up top, right? Instagram, social, like we're gonna have a lot of people at that top of the funnel. And people are naturally going to drop off, which is good. We obviously don't want every single person. So we're gonna kind of go through each one and talk about what are the things they're looking at every single stage of our business and every single stage of that buying habit. So when it comes to that top of funnel, we have less than those 10 seconds for them to decide if you are for them. And again, this is not just a wedding statistic. I think we have to remember that this is just a consumer buying. We have a very short window to convince them to even keep searching because they're gonna look at a lot of venues. They're gonna look at a lot of vendors. So the biggest thing is that we need it to be incredibly simple and basic at the top because the amount of times that I do a website audit and I don't know what they do is almost every single one, because a florist will look like a planner, will look like a photographer, and they'll often also look like a venue, because you know what the pictures are? Pretty weddings. If that's all we have to give them in that first 10-second impression, they might not know what you do, and they might think, this is wrong website, not gonna go back. So we need to make it really clear what style you are as well, because again, if you are looking for a specific type of couple with your specific type of venue style, why would we have pictures that don't match that, and why don't we say that? We need to make it really clear, because if they're looking for an industrial wedding venue, and your venue doesn't look remotely industrial in those first 10 seconds, or you don't say it, they're subconsciously gonna go, oh, wrong venue, right? Like I clicked on the wrong link. I mean, how many times have you guys opened up a website and are like, oh, I don't think I meant to click that. We also need location. I know for a venue this seems so obvious, but I do about 150 website audits a year. This is always missed. I don't know why, like, just because it looks like it's Savannah, Georgia does not mean anybody know that it's Savannah, Georgia. So we need to make sure it's really clear. And then we need to answer that question, are you for me? Is the style, again, going to match their vision? If you're a blank space, that's amazing. Make sure we're talking about that. And I also want you to emphasize what's going to set you apart. Because in every city, there's gonna be a lot of venues that might be similar to yours, right, aesthetically. If you're in an area where there's a lot of barn venues, a lot of industrial, for example, when I was a vendor in Savannah, a lot of historic venues with brick walls. It's like half the venues. So what are we gonna do to differentiate that aesthetic? What are we gonna talk about? Are we gonna talk about things about the architecture, the location, the gardens, the multiple spaces? What are we gonna have that's gonna be a nice statement that we get up at the top of your website? So all the stuff I'm talking about, I want to have within those first 10 seconds of scrolling. Like we need to make it very simple and very clear, so that way we can try to catch their attention as soon as humanly possible. We also need to make sure if we're doing a blogging strategy, which you should, we're making it really clear that we're a venue, because someone coming to your blog is going to be a colder lead, most likely Pinterest SEO. They might have not seen your Instagram, they might have not seen all the gorgeous work, so they don't really know what they're looking at. So we need to make sure it's really clear that your venue name and location are within that first paragraph. Because, so a lot of times our clients will do a Pinterest strategy and they'll say, I get Pinterest clicks out the wazoo, but no one contacts me. And then I look at their blogs and I'm like, well, because you didn't tell them what you do or why they should contact you. They came off Google, they read a really cool blog, but then they didn't know, were you the venue, were you the florist, were you the photographer? Because again, if it's a wedding, it's gonna look really, really similar to them. And yes, blogging works. This is actually the Think Splendid just came out with her 2025. This is an amazing company. If you want data, which you do, she sells, like she polls like thousands of couples and gives really great data. It's called Think Splendid. It came out today with the 2025. I didn't have time to update it with the most recent because I literally bought it like 10 minutes ago. But 73% of luxury wedding couples and 71% of ultra luxury. Just for an emphasis, luxury is considered around 250,000 in her poll, and then 500 and up is ultra luxury. Found at least one of their vendors from an internet search, and like I said, we know for a fact that venues are going to be the first thing searched. So one fun fact is that a venue in any city will have more searches than any other vendor. So for example, in Savannah right now, Savannah wedding venue is 2,100-ish a month searches. Photographers like 800 in second place. That's how big of a difference it is. That's how much they're searching on Google for you guys. Oh, come on. Oh, did it?
Here it goes.
Technology, guys. Okay. Okay, cool. We're just gonna go manually because I'm not sure if this is working. Okay. Another thing we have to consider is the consistency of our visuals throughout it, because they will notice, especially higher end couples are going to notice if fonts and colors don't match. It sounds really, really simple and silly, but we know time and time again that if something doesn't look similar across certain platforms, they're not going to quite understand if it's the same exact company. This is really big on social media if you're using Canva. The amount of times I look and they're using just like whatever Canva template came out that day, but they didn't change the fonts, they didn't change the colors, they're gonna notice that because they're spending a lot of money, and you wouldn't spend a lot of money on something if you didn't think it was consistent, right? Like that's just kind of a why would I spend all that money if it doesn't look consistent? So we need to make sure we have the fonts and all of the colorings. So again, it's an easy yes, I'm interested, because we don't want to give them a single second of pause. So next we're going to go into that consideration phase. So we've done the top of the funnel. We're feeling pretty good. They're pretty interested. But now we have to think about, how does this work? We have to think of them as not even 5-year-olds, 3-year-olds who have never done this before. This is an overwhelming, confusing process. There are a lot of opinions out there, and they don't know what is right and what is wrong, because we all know they can go to a website and read a whole bunch of blogs. They're going to tell them 17 different versions of the exact same thing, right? So it might be, oh, this is what your budget should be. And then you go, well, that's not remotely what your budget should be. But how are they supposed to know if they don't know, right? Like, they don't know what they're doing. So I want us to think about, what are things that we can create content-wise that are going to walk them through what to expect during that inquiry process. I was actually talking to Ian about this yesterday. And they do this remarkably well. So they write blogs specifically to send throughout that inquiry process as a reason to follow up. So if you're ever like, I need to follow up with them, they have blogs ready to go that talk about other steps of their process. So that way they follow up and go, hey, I know you're still making decisions. You might be considering this for your wedding. We wrote a really great blog post on this that's going to cover some of those questions you might be having at this part of your decision buying. It's content that you can repurpose for social. It's content you can use again and again, and it's guiding them through the steps. When he told me that, I was like, that's my secret. You're not supposed to know that one. Because that's one of the first things we write for our clients. They're always like, I want to blog on my real weddings. And I'm like, until we have content that I can help sell your weddings, I need to start there, and then we'll do all the pretty stuff. The pretty stuff we can do later. It's also because, well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go to Reddit, and they're going to ask anonymous people what to do. So I have a lot of Reddit screenshots in here. So I have a separate phone for my creeping, okay? So when the phone comes out, my husband literally gives me a side eye because he knows I'm going. So I'm in every Reddit, I'm in Discords, I'm currently trying Tumblr, not quite working, but again, I'm going to try it. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what they're asking. And the thing is, if they are asking how to prepare for venue tours on a miscellaneous anonymous website, that means that whoever they're talking to did not give them the steps. And again, it sounds so simple because you're like, I do this every day. They obviously don't know. These are within the last 48 hours. Like, I update my slides like 2 days before I speak because this is how recent it's happening. These are all within 48 hours, except for the 5 months, because I thought that was really interesting. Wedding tour checklist. Do you have a checklist you send them of questions they should be asking to make them feel comfortable? Because we have to also consider their buying habits. You're probably going to have one that's a more emotional buyer in a relationship, and then you often will have someone who's more of an analytical buyer, the checklist person, right? You know who feels the most uncomfortable on a tour? The checklist person. The one who's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. That was my husband when I got married. Are you kidding me? He had no idea. He's like, what am I supposed to just look at the flowers? Yes, darling. He wanted a checklist. He wanted a step-by-step. And you know what made him feel good? Walking with that sheet of paper. Again, so small, but what you're doing is you're trying to sell to people who might be buying not emotionally, because not everybody dreams about their wedding. I know a lot of times we want our copy to be like, it's the best day of your life. We know plenty of people are like, yeah, but like, what else you got for me? So a few things we can try to answer. How long is the call or tour gonna take? Again, people have jobs. The amount of times I see on Reddit where people are like, oh my God, I have to do like hours of tours, like that's stressful. If you told me, like when I was house hunting and I had to spend hours looking at houses, you know what? Within the first hour, I was like, I'm over this. So if you're number 6 of the day and they're thinking they have to spend hours, like give them something to know. It's 30 minutes, it's an hour. This is what we're gonna do at every single step. What are topics to talk about? Again, for those people who don't want to talk about their wedding that much. We all know when I worked in retail, you'd think that everybody looking for a dress or attire would want to talk about their day. Nah, a lot of people don't. They're like, I don't know, I'm just here. And explain the next steps, because again, they don't know what the next steps are. Is it a proposal? How long do they have to book? Is there a contract? We have to make it as clear as possible for those who just don't know, because you know what they'll do? They'll go to Reddit and they'll get the wrong information, and then you'll be like, they're a red flag. And they weren't a red flag, they just didn't know. We also want to really up level our Instagram posts, because at the end of the day, oh no, flower down. No, it's fine. At the end of the day, being like their wedding was super cool is fine. I mean, we have an Instagram person right up here and she'll be like, it's fine. But we really want to make sure we're up-leveling and talking about how we're working with other vendors as well. So one of the biggest secret sauces when we're doing social media for our vendors is I want to tie y'all in together, because there's a really good chance you have some planners you really want to keep working with, or some photographers. You're going to have people that you're naturally like, ooh, I'd really like to work with them again. So how can we make sure we're bringing them within our ecosystem? How can we talk about things that the couple utilized, if it was the getting ready spaces, if it was the indoor-outdoor? Make sure we're really using our words and actually explaining. And again, it might sound repetitive. You might say, I have talked about my garden 742 times. Does not matter, because every few months you have a completely new audience looking at your Instagram and they have no idea you ever posted that. If you look at the Instagram strategy for my clients, you will see we repeat stuff that works well. Every 6 months, I repeat stuff that works well, that has high engagement, that does well. I just swap out the pictures. And you know what? It does better and better every single time, because I know it's a new ecosystem of people. I also want to think about how can we get our blogs up-leveled. So for example, even higher end. So this is a client that does insanely high-end weddings. And we still have blogs on discovery call, concept to creation. What are things that you do at your venue that might be different? Do you offer maybe a full wedding weekend buyout option? That's really big right now, are those weekend buyouts. Do they even know you offer that? Because if you're not talking about it and they're looking for it, I worked recently with a venue who they did that, and they're like, no one ever books our wedding weekend. And I'm like, it doesn't say anywhere in your ecosystem that you even offer it. They're not gonna ask. They're not gonna be awkward and be like, so like, can I buy it out? They're wanting you to just tell them that they can do it. And we also need to think about how it works. I really think video as a venue is the #1 thing you need to be focusing on. You need to be having people in there getting great video, because that's what they want to see. Do you have a quick tour video to send them in the inquiry process so they can see something, a few minutes, you can send them right away? That's going to get them excited, because they're going to go, oh, wow. And then they're going to show their family and they're going to show their friends, which is, again, word of mouth marketing. Ask them, send them the blog post. Think of things that we can be sending them beforehand. So next we go into the trust part. And this is a really big one right now, because they don't trust weddings at all. I'm actually, a podcast I'm doing with Heidi of Evolve Your Wedding Business comes out in a few weeks. And it's literally just us talking about how no one trusts the wedding industry anymore. And part of it is obviously COVID sucked. I had to move my wedding. It sucked. It's not just that. It's the fact that we now live online even more than ever. So if you guys notice, when you Google Reddit and Quora comes up now as like top results, I could talk about that for like an hour, but there's a reason. Google is actively changing the way their algorithm works. They want stuff like that to come up higher. So that means when they Google certain cities, you're gonna see stuff like my venue was shut down, LA venue canceled, venue closed. That's what they're seeing. That is their first thing that they are seeing online. They're in a Facebook group, they're seeing photographers that are behind, they're seeing planners that are behind. It's just kind of this like weird ecosystem right now. And it's one of the reasons they're gonna be hesitant on spending money, because we're not gonna spend money if we don't like trust it, right? Like, why would I throw money at something if I don't know I'm gonna get anything out of it? Especially if they have an ironclad contract and they can't get their money back. Like, they're nervous. So if they're going online and they're brand new and they're seeing all of this, they're like, oh my God. Kind of nervous, right? So we have to really make sure we are utilizing ways to focus on that social proof and testimonials. If I go to your social media and I don't see a testimonial within like a scroll, I don't trust you as a vendor, because I'm like, well, why? You haven't told me to. And I know with you guys it's a lot easier. Whenever I say this in front of my artists, my florists, my designers, they don't like to talk about themselves, right? They're like, my art. If you're not gonna brag about yourself, who will? You're not gonna brag about what a fantastic artist you are. I went to art school, so I can say this. If you're not gonna talk about what a fantastic artist you are, who's gonna do it? Nobody else is gonna do it for you. So we have to be the ones that do that. I wanted you to make it a pillar, and you're gonna see when we do our workshop in a little bit, like, share the heck out of it. If you are a venue that hasn't opened, we can talk about that. But for example, people come to me and they're like, I have 5 testimonials. Rinse and repeat, baby. Couple sentences of that testimonial we use again and again and again, because they're not gonna notice and they're certainly not gonna care. I want to make sure it's throughout our website. Do not keep them on an individual page. Do not have a testimonial page. It will not be viewed. They don't want to look at that. They're going to go to the wedding wire not to see them all. They need to be done throughout your website because think of it as a retail shopping experience. If you are buying something online and there is not a review on that page, do you trust it? No. So if they're on your About page and they don't see a review, why would they trust you? Services, trust, right? So it's really coming back to, again, it's just a shopper habit of they're not going to go, like if I'm buying a pair of jeans, I'm not going to go looking for a testimonial page. Like I'm going to want that testimonial on that pair of jeans, like on that scroll. If you have multiple packages, make sure we're using that About page. This is where I really love to utilize the testimonials that talk about the owner or a specific person at your venue because I want to make that connection. I want them to go, oh, Chelsea was so good. Like, okay, cool. So when I meet with Chelsea on my tour, I'm gonna get really excited because like, Chelsea's cool. So we just wanna make sure we're putting it throughout there. Use your testimonials and your FAQs. There is, again, a very good chance that somewhere hidden in your sea of testimonials, there's something that can answer that. So instead of just saying like, what happens if it rains on my wedding day? Talk about a wedding where it happened. Share a testimonial from a client where the wedding happened. Have a picture of how gorgeous it still looked, even with rain. Because we want to use their words. So whenever we're doing copywriting for clients, the first thing I do is I pull from your testimonial. So whenever we're creating like snippets of content, like, you know, the really big statements on your website, 9 times out of 10, that's pulled from a testimonial because there's no reason for me to rework what someone's already done and said about my business. So we're simply taking those things. You can use ChatGPT, like y'all use AI for this. Dump all your testimonials inside of ChatGPT. Ask it to tell what stands out about my business? What are things that are consistently talked about again and again? I used to have to manually do this. So for our clients, I used to print them out and highlight. Now I go into ChatGPT and within 30 seconds, I can go, okay, we're consistently talking about this. This is a good start for me. And use them inside of your blog post. So again, oh, there we go. Use the testimonial inside of the blog post if you're doing a real wedding or anything. Use that as content. It is incredible content. It can write half of your blog post without you having to actually write anything. And then we need to use our Instagram to build that trust. I mean, they're looking at social to see how active you are. I mean, they are. They're gonna be like, oh, they haven't posted in a month. I don't know if they're still around. It's, again, a very instantaneous, like, are they still in business? We have to remember everyone had a friend who had a terrible COVID experience. And so we all know they have friends that told them, like, be really wary of this process. We need to make sure it's just really instant that we're active. I personally really like stories. So younger generations, Gen Z, prefer stories. Like Instagram came out and was like, Gen Z likes stories better. I mean, it makes sense. They like instant gratification. It's like TikTok. It's a scrolling. Like, it makes sense. I like stories better. Like, I'm hardly ever on anyone's feed these days. Utilize your stories so, again, you look active. Before and after, the best thing we can highlight is a transformation because they're not just booking a space, right? They're not like, this is my venue. They want to know how it can be transformed for them. They want to be special. They want to see how it can be transformed. Before and after, time and time and time again, will be incredibly well performing for you guys, I know, because people love that. They love to see a before and after, whether it's video or whether it's static, they want to see that. Invest in professional video and content creators. As a social media person, if I don't have good video, I cannot make magic. If you give me really bad video, I can't use it. Like Emily knows, like I can't. It's not gonna get any views. You're just gonna waste your money with me. So a prerequisite before outsourcing social media us is I ask them, what type of video do we have? Because there's no reason to spend money if you're not gonna have really high quality video that I can then give you a good ROI. I mean, content creators, y'all, every single city has one. I'm currently doing a website for a content creator. I guarantee there is a college Gen Zer out there with her phone wanting to be a content calendar person and like will do a lot of behind the scenes video for you guys on an iPhone that's really good quality. And highlight partnerships through collaboration posts. The best performing posts we do are always collaboration, which means you tag the other person, it's on both your feeds, because you're doubling your audience. Now, does this require a bit of communication? Yes, because If it's a photographer, man, they're worried about that feed image. Whew, it's hard to get a photographer to agree to have it on there. But if we can do it, it'll like probably double your engagement on those posts usually pretty quickly, because it's getting in front of multiple audiences, and Instagram lets us do that. Now next we have the decision phase. So this is where they're really starting to think about it. We have to be price transparent. I know venues are better at this than most of my other clients. I'm not gonna like harbinge literally as intense as I do on this slide. If we don't control the narrative of the pricing, our couples will. They will post your pricing. There is a website that does this. There are over, I think, 1,000 venues on this website that is crowdsourced for couples. There's one for planners, there's one for photographers. Do not, side note, don't try to attack them, because they will attack harder. But they're crowdsourcing it because they're like, why is no one transparent, right? If I want to know what a high-end photographer costs right now, I know where to find it. There's spreadsheets out there. They're all over Reddit. It's not hidden. And so when people get mad at that, I'm like, but did you control the narrative or did they? Did you let them do that? You did, because you didn't share the pricing. Now I fully understand. Pricing is hard. I work with a lot of florists and percentage-based planners. The number one thing they say is, well, I could be 5,000, it could be 20,000. Give them some kind of range. They just simply want to know, are you for them or are you not for them? It's that simple, because if you don't post it, someone else will, the pricing will not be right, and then you'll be in my inbox asking how we take it down. So for example, we could say all-inclusive venue spend. Like there's ways we can shift it for every single venue to at least give them some kind of general range to make it good. Even for like my stationery paper people, we always can find a way to make it work. I also want you to think about when we're explaining pricing, not just the physical items it includes, because like tables and chairs are super cool. That's the analytical buyer, is like, yeah, tables. But the other partner is like, well, I'm gonna cover them with linens. Like, you think I seriously care about the table count? Talk about things that matter, like scenic views, versatility, accommodation. Accommodation is huge. Even if you don't have on-site accommodation, make it really clear what hotels or partners you work with. That is huge on Reddit right now, is trying to figure out room blocks and room block situations and how we can have an all-inclusive wedding weekend if my venue doesn't host it. Have partners in the space. Be like, yeah, we work really great. The Durham Hotel, we have room blocks we can, your planner will help you figure out. Like, make it so it's really clear that even if you don't have on-site accommodation, you can make it work for them. Now we're going into action, which I think is always fun. What do I do next? Again, they like literally don't know what to do. It might sound simple, but your contact form, so if you're wondering why you get ghosted, it's usually this step. They haven't actually even inquired because they just like don't know what to do. Their contact form and sometimes that initial email. Have buttons. This is just like a website designer in me. Please just have buttons. Do not have things underlined. Do not have it hyperlinked. Buttons. If it is not a box button, it will not be clicked. And the amount of times they contact me that is not an actual button, and they're like, no one's contacting me. And I'm like, we turn it into a button and then magically inquiries just start coming in. It's just have it be a button. That's just my like web designer hat. Do not have a lot of questions. I think Shannon teaches on this pretty well. We don't need to know all this stuff. Literally, they don't know, we don't know. We just need to have them come in, right? Make it as easy as possible. It's also just a statistics thing. The more questions you have, the less likely someone is to fill out a form. They get really overwhelmed, especially because most of your people are gonna be on mobile now. They're not gonna be on desktop. They're gonna be on mobile filling out your form. And I know if I see a really long form, I get like really bad anxiety and I'm like, nah, I'm out. So make it as simple as possible. There are other questions you're naturally gonna have to ask. That's fine. Ask it later in the process once you have them hooked in. This is from, again, a Facebook group. This is real. Like, y'all, this is like a real photographer sent this to somebody. So while we laugh, it's like, this is what they see though. Like, would you contact it? Like, I would get nervous to contact a photographer if I had all that info. Like, when I got married, I was a former planner. I didn't know 99% of that. Like,
I think they lost me at the very first line.
I don't think you're ordering a pizza.
Jesus Christ.
Trust me, that wedding, that poor photographer, they got outed. I know, right? Ordering a pizza, like, but people say that. So it's like, if that's your competition, that's cool. But like, that puts a bad taste in that person's mouth. And then they probably come to you and you're like, oh, they're antsy. And it's because they had a bad experience. Although I like my pizzas real plain, so I'd be fine. We have to reply really fast to emails. They will spend more money for a faster turnaround all time, every day. They will pay more money if you give them better customer service. This is from a big budget subreddit. This is for planners, but specifically, like, these are all people who will pay double to have faster responses. So that means you need to make sure you are getting back to them. I know it's frustrating to have to answer that fast. Like, I get it. I work with vendors every single day. I'm in my inbox every day. Y'all want answers tomorrow. Like, I get it. But that's just the world we're in. And like, that's not changing. So this isn't like going away. They're just gonna want it even faster as the Gen Z get older. So it's just kind of like where we're at, and we just have to keep pushing forward. How soon will I hear back? There is nothing more frustrating than filling out an inquiry form and it goes into an abyss and we don't know where it goes. Did it submit? Did they get it? I don't know. Again, this can all be done inside of your CRM. It will take you about 3 minutes. Have it send an automatic email that says, yes, we got your inquiry. Yes, you will hear from us. Again, something so simple, but imagine it just going into the ether and then they hear back from you in 3 days and they're like, oh, I already forgot about you. It can be that fast. And again, it's something automated. None of that is stuff you have to do manually. If they are in your DMs, they are a hot lead. Venues aren't as bad as this, but there's so many photographers do the whole don't DM me. That's literally just telling people you're closed. Like, why in the world would you not want them to DM you? That is a hot lead. They're in your DM. Emily, how hard is it to get someone in your DMs? Real hard. And I will do audits for like venues and vendors, and I'll be like, what are these DMs? Why is no one talking to these people? And they're like, oh, like they want, I'm not gonna send them stuff. That's not how my sales funnel works. Well, you need to fix your sales funnel because that's where they're asking to give you money. You can have saved replies. You can tell them, here, click this link and form. Or here, go ahead. If they're in your inbox, just send them a form to book with you. Like, I don't know why we would wanna ask them more questions, right? Like, they're warm. Mobile. Anything you have that is not looking good on mobile, anything that's landscape, you've got to get rid of it. It's got to be up and down. It's got to be easy to read on mobile. If they have to Zoom, they have to try to figure it out or read it, they are gone. And it's not just them. It could be their parents, their grandparents. Like, my mom has her phone on like 17 Zoom. Like, I'm not going to send her something that she can't read. Like, we have to. I know I can pretty much guarantee everyone in here, you're at least 50 to 60% mobile right now with your analytics, just from where the industry statistics are. Make sure your contact form works on mobile. The number 2 biggest issue when I do website audits is their contact form doesn't work on mobile, probably 60% of my audits. It is that common because it is that easy to break. Every single month, test it. Have someone in your team's job to test the contact form, because the amount of times that I am like, I am so sorry, but your contact form did not work on mobile, it's anxiety inducing. I check mine every single week because I am that scared of it happening. So now that we have all of these pieces, we now can form them into our customer base. And as you see, everything that I've talked about, it doesn't really take that long to do. Because I didn't want to give you guys a 500-page list of your website has to have 75 things. It really doesn't. Because at the end of the day, we only have a few seconds to capture their attention. So everything we're doing, we don't need to overthink it to an extent. You don't need 700 pages on your website. You don't need all of that stuff. What you do need is really well thought out and strategic couple steps, a couple things that are really going to help create them into that strong customer base that we want. So again, what do you offer? Where are you located and where are you for me? First questions they're going to ask. How does this work? Because they don't know what they don't know. They are doughy-eyed little deer in a forest. Y'all are trying to hunt them down and competing against each other. Can I trust them? How much does it cost? Because is it even remotely within their budget, or are they just wasting everybody's time? What do I do next? And then how soon am I going to hear back? Because we only have those few minutes to make the first impression, and I want you guys to be standing out and being really irresistible. So before we go into the workshop section, I'll probably put my mic down for that because it feels kind of weird workshopping like this. That's the slides. If you want all the slides, feel free to get it because I know a lot of people like want all the slides. So I'll let you do that. Okay. Before I go into the workshop session, does anyone have any questions before I dive into like content creation? Because that's a whole nother beast. No questions? Cool. Okay, did everybody get that? Okay. I honestly am probably just gonna put this down because I feel like,
I have a question.
yeah, go for it.
As a venue that's not open yet,
Yeah.
reviews we've pulled from people. So I worked in other places and planned weddings. Venues owned by catering companies, so they obviously have reviews. How do you feel about displaying reviews that aren't from couples? Do you think it's still as effective as couple reviews?
I would get vendor reviews.
That's what we have. And
Okay.
because at this point, that's all we can do. But
Yeah.
I was just curious about the efficacy of that versus.
It's,
I have a few couple reviews. They're not from this venue, obviously, because it's not open yet. But
is it for you as like a planner,
no, I'm the venue director.
venue director? Okay.
So it would be for the venue specifically.
Yeah, that's a little tricky. I would say sticking with vendor reviews. If it is of a couple that's not directly there, I would make sure we had like in there, like
Right, where it happened.
where it happened.
So you don't seem like you're trying to deceive.
Yeah, also because like that other, you don't want that other vendor to be like, why are you using my review? So I would probably stick with vendor reviews that you have for now. And I mean, couples are smart, like they know when a venue's not open yet, like that you're not gonna have a lot of reviews on that regard. So it's not gonna be like that huge of a deterrent if you're new.
Yeah, okay.
But I would say whenever you're a new venue, I mean, the biggest thing is you want to hype the heck out of it. Like start marketing your venue before you even have anything. Like you need to hype it because they're going to be looking for a long time and they're going to be creeping for a long time. So we need to make sure that we're giving them a lot of stuff to look at and to get really excited. So that way when it's time to tour it, they're like, oh my God, yes, time to tour it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm just gonna turn that. Can everybody hear me okay? It's gonna be just easier than me like walking around because I walk, obviously. I'm a stroller. Okay. Who's excited for content? This is my favorite thing in the world, so I'm glad you guys are here with me. Okay. Let me pull up. I don't know like where it is. Okay. Oh, there it is.
The first tab.
Oh, it's tabbed. Okay. So there's a few different ways we can do this. I've done workshops a lot of different ways. It depends on how much y'all want to participate together, how much y'all want to do on your own. I'm here, so if y'all have like questions about specific content, obviously we can workshop it out. Kind of just depends on what you guys feel comfortable with. Some people really like to workshop ideas for content, and some people are like, no, I want to do this at home. But the way I wanted to break it down was literally how we would do this for a client. So if you were a client at Ava and the Bee, this is how we do it. So the first thing we're gonna do is, as you see inside of the workbook, I broke down the prompts based off the different stages. And the reason for that is whenever we're creating a content calendar for our clients, I wanna be thinking of a few things. So if I have like a 30-day, you'll see there's an example of this, but I have January, it's wide open. What am I gonna talk about? There's a few things we're gonna wanna be hitting on every single month, again and again. So for example, for awareness, one of these items are things that I'm gonna wanna have every single month. So whether it's the same one every single month and I rinse and repeat it, or whether it's a few. So for example, highlighting a venue's unique features, doing some kind of carousel post that's showing those specific unique features could be a pillar that I do every single month, especially if I have a lot of really unique features. If it's like a ceremony space, because that's your big seller. So I want you to think about for your venue, what is the one item that would be the biggest seller for us? Would it be the guest experience? Would it be the ceremony? Would it be location? Like what is that big, big seller? And that's what I want you to lead in with January for your content, is one of those. So that's why I'm breaking it down by each one, because I know different type of venues, you're gonna have different things that are like your magnet. And we wanna be really hitting on that in January, February, when we know statistically we're getting searched for the most. It's gonna be the same for Reels. So for example, when it comes through like a venue walkthrough or a transformation, a lot of people might not have a ton of transformation video yet. That's fine. Just know that in the future, whenever you're doing tours, whenever you're doing weddings, make sure you have someone on your staff who's getting really good iPhone video of the before and after. You only need like 10, 15 seconds. Like a reel, I mean, more than 10 seconds and they're out. So we don't need a lot of like long content. I just simply want you to start having that being part of your SOP. So whoever on your team's in charge of that, that should be their job. So when I was a planner, that was one of our assistants' jobs. Like you get before video and you get after video. At the end of the night, I need at least 60 seconds of video. And that's your job. Like that's a requirement. Could also be features of your venue. For the blog posts, for the awareness, these are some really good basic blogs that I want you to have in your arsenal. The biggest thing is using our venue as a keyword. So whenever we're thinking about keywords with SEO, keywords are really, really, really simple. It is a question and an answer. Their question is, Savannah wedding venue. The answer is your venue. That's how simple it is. We don't have to get any granular than that. So what are reasons that couples fall in love with your venue? How are we personalizing your venue? Finding your perfect venue in a specific city. This is really good if you're in a market where you have a lot of competitors. If you don't have the basic blogs like questions to ask on a venue tour or like some of those introductory ones, I would try to get those done in Q1 because again, it's gonna make that inquiry process a lot easier for you when you're having a reason to follow up with them, when you're giving an excuse. Another great thing that we can do could be video, like showing, hey, we just had this really cool video before and after, and sending it to someone during the inquiry phase can be really helpful. Like here's how you can visualize our space. We do that a lot for like planners too who have specific styles. So they're like, I love doing this certain type of tented wedding. So we'll make sure it's part of their inquiry process to be like, hey, I know you were thinking of a tented wedding here. Here's a quick video of what it looked like. It's a really fast, like you're not having to talk, you're not having to sell them. The video and the visual is what's actually selling them. So that's for the awareness stage. As we get into the consideration, how does this work? That's where we're gonna have a little bit more of like those tour things. I also want you to talk about planners. If you're the type of venue where you have to have a planner, but you don't really ever talk about it, well, that's why they don't know they need a planner. Like they don't know that they need a planner with you. So if it is something where you have to have it, or it's like a please for the love of God, have a planner, I want that to be a blog. Like I want you to talk about how you work with other teams really well. Couples want team players. They're gonna have a lot of vendors, and the last thing they want is a vendor that doesn't play well with others in the sandbox. So part of your social media strategy can really be around that too. Talk about working with planners, photographers, designers, stationery, florists. Hype them up because they want that attention too. And they will love you. Like I cannot think of a single client of mine that if a venue came to them asking to feature them, they wouldn't be like, Adrienna, this is due tomorrow. Like they want your attention more than any other vendor's attention. Utilize that to your experience. Like get them to make you content. Y'all don't have to make this all. Have your favorite florist be like, hey, I really love the wedding you're having coming up. Can you do a few video like before and after with our space, and we can do a collaboration post, and that way we can have it on both things. Like they're gonna jump on that and they're gonna be like, oh wow, that's amazing. Utilize those relationships. We can also think about top features that people like. I would also really try to get some kind of real content around what a tour is like. Again, for like the analytical person who's like, what do I do with my hands? Like having them understand what a venue tour is sounds really exhausting. And so if we can make it easy and be like, this is fun, it's not like super pressured, because I feel like when I think of a venue tour, I think of like buying a car, and I'm picturing like a sleazy car salesman. Like that's what I'm picturing, and I'm in the industry. So imagine like our couples are definitely picturing that. So how can we prove to them that it's not that type of experience? Also, if you have anything with staff, I get questions a lot around like staffing, like should they be shown? And I know there can be turnover with staff, but I would say yes, definitely make sure that they're seen. If you're not the one giving the tour, then you don't need to be in all the videos. Have the people who are actually like doing it, because those are the faces that they're gonna recognize really well. So I wanna make sure you're not just like hiding your staff, because they're the ones probably like doing a lot of that heavy sales work for you. And then as we go through, does anyone have any questions so far? Yeah.
I love this idea of highlighting vendors that you work with, but like, how would you suggest you navigate that with, so we have a preferred vendor list. I always tell couples, like, it's like the Sophie's Choice, like, all these people are people I love and would choose myself or refer to my best friend. So is it just sort of like a process you like move through your list? Because I did do one collaborative post with a photographer and a videographer, and I almost felt like guilty because I'm like, but I love all these other people too.
Yep.
It's just sort of like, does it take several months to really hit everyone? And like, is
Yeah.
it okay?
Yeah, so what you do is you go through your list. Yep, so that's what we do with our clients is we would go through your list and we would have like an email that goes out to them to be like, hey, part of our marketing pillar this year is we want to feature you guys as being on our preferred list. We love working with you. Here's a few ways we can collaborate. Give them a few options. We could do a guest blog post. We could do a collaborative Instagram. Give them a few options. And then once they say yes, be like, awesome. Like, we'll go ahead and schedule it for January. That way they know that they're not the only one.
And anticipate it, and they're
Yep.
not like, they don't just see it and it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you, okay.
Yeah, so you would just go through your list. So a lot of my clients that are photographers, when we work with, like, so for example, in Austin, I work with 6 different vendor types. So we constantly hyping each other up. It's really great. But like that'll be part of our process is we'll know, okay, hey, in February, we have a guest post with this venue. So yeah, just go through your list. And that way you're kind of spreading the love around everybody. And that way you're giving them the option. So if they don't reply and don't want to do it, that's fine. But then they at least know why they're not showing up. Yeah. Yeah.
When you suggest sending videos through the process, if they've already got that on Reels, do you suggest that they send that reel, embed it on their website and send like a little blog post with it, or?
Yeah, we could do it a few different ways. We've embedded it in blog posts. If it's a reel that just happened, I would just send them the link. Because I mean, they're probably following anyway. But yeah, it's like fun. It's like, hey, I know you're really interested in this space. We had a super cool wedding where they did this with the tent. Like, I know you're still thinking about it. I just wanted to like send you it. Do you have any questions? Because they're gonna wanna see it. But yeah, you could embed it, but you can also just send them the link, honestly. Yeah.
So on Instagram, on my highlights, I've got like a rain plan. And yesterday I had a couple message me, what is your rain plan? Is it okay to tell them to go back to your Instagram highlight, or do they need easy where they just click on it?
I mean, you can tell them to go back. Realistically, are they going to do it? Probably not. So that's why I would have some kind of blog that like talks about it with some kind of, if you have video around it. Just that way you're giving them, hey, we have it in our stories, but here's also an additional article you can read. Because it's also for that SEO factor. The fact that they went from Instagram to your website makes Google happy. And so I want to try to make that happen as much as possible. So a lot of the strategy with the social media is also if we can send them links to your website, like a blog post, that's great for SEO because it's telling Google that these people in this area are looking from social to your website, which is a good signal for them. So it's kind of like a 2-part strategy. Part of it is for the couple, and then part of it is simply like we're trying to convince Google we're the best, which is a very long process. Any other questions around this so far? Wow, yeah.
So we are micro venue, more of an Airbnb.
Okay.
We have a historic building that we're using for small events, but we also own a rental company. So for that, we don't have a preferred vendor list because anybody can, you know. So I had not thought about having one for the inn because we have so many vendor relationships. I don't even know how we would make one.
Okay.
Is that okay? Like, I feel like, I don't know, that I'm throwing that out there that it mainly is it okay to not have one?
I mean, I'm curious what other venue owners would think as well. I personally, the reason why I like them isn't just for like, I like them as a vendor, it's ease for our couple, especially if you have a micro venue, smaller weddings. They want as much all-inclusive as physically human possible. So all-inclusive wedding venues, all-inclusive wedding packages are still increasing in search ranks. It's not just a pandemic thing. Like, I think it's like 800 or 900 per city right now. So they're looking for that. So if they're looking for you specifically, there's a very, very high chance that they want to have a list and make it simple. Because they're eloping, they're having a smaller micro wedding. Like, they purposely are choosing that because they don't want to make decisions. So I would say the benefit for you is not just the vendor connections, but the ease for the couple of being like, these are our favorites that do this, and here's why. And then that's my personal recommendation, because I know what they're searching for online, and they want as much inclusive as humanly possible. So that's how I would personally go about it. I don't know if any other venues have thoughts on that too, but that's what we've seen work really well.
So I would just say, when I first bought my venue, I thought, I don't want anybody to feel like they have to choose this.
Yeah,
But then I realized in every tour,
they want you to tell them.
every single tour, do you have a preferred
Yep.
list? Not a required list. Nobody likes to be required.
Yeah,
But the preferred, you have suggestions, yes. Everyone wants to know that.
Yes.
And that is why they'll choose me,
yep,
because I'm gonna guide them and save them hours upon hours upon hours. And that's where the preferred list comes from. So whether I'm booking a micro wedding or a large wedding, that is a driving force.
yeah, and that's a really good point. I mean, one of our clients does an all-inclusive elopement package that she started during the pandemic. She's like quadrupled sales. She's almost a multi-million-dollar business doing elopement packages in 2024 because people want that. They want to show up and say, here's the stuff, here's the things, make it easy, especially in this economy where they are price shopping like crazy. That's not going away in the next year or so. Like that, this is going to continue. We're going to have a ton of price shopping. Like that's how it's going to be. So if you can create some kind of those all-inclusive preferred, what you're doing is you're becoming the expert. You're stepping in and going, you are overwhelmed. I'm here to help you. I've been doing this for a long time. Don't worry about it. That's what they want. Especially if they're not always going to have a full service planner and more month of coordinators. Work with those coordinators. Get a list of those really good month of coordinators. I know they hate that term, but let's be honest, it's what the couples are searching for. Make sure that you have good relationships with them so that way you can utilize them, because we all know we want someone there on the day of. So if they're not able to afford a full service planner, you can still be the one that steps in, is like, no problem. We work with these two companies a lot. They're gonna come in, they're heavily referred. So yeah, they want that. And they look to you venues as highly as they do to planners when it comes to referrals. Photographers, they'll ask for referrals like 50-60% of the time, much less likely to book than they are to book someone who is coming from a venue or a planner. That's what they want. Yeah.
Is it typical to get commissions or kickbacks from preferred vendors?
Personally, do not think it should be. I personally think no. In some cities right now, is it becoming a thing? Yes. Is it a bad idea? I don't like it. Your couples will hate it. If your couples find out, they'll post it on Reddit. Seriously, and they'll out you and they won't like it. So I would say no, just out of sheer the couples would feel really ick about it.
I think it's inauthentic. It's a thing that people do. Sorry, I'm just inserting.
Yeah, no, go for it, yeah.
But I'm in the north of Boston market, which is extremely saturated.
Okay.
There are many venues that do this, and couples can tell right away.
I'm sorry, because the venue pushes it harder, like.
Yeah, well, it's just, sort of the way that it's packaged. I always say, it's similar to what she just said, is this is our preferred list. This is who we know, like, and trust, but you don't have to use them. You do need to use someone that is licensed and insured, but this is a great place to start. But like I just said earlier, is that I always tell them, this is someone I would personally use. And because my reputation of, I know that they're going to give you a good product, because if somebody's just paying me $500 a year or whatever to be on a list, I don't know that they're necessarily going to do the best for my couple. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I want the people that I think have the best product to put out, that work the best with our policies and our venue, and are going to put our couples first. And then they know that it's a place that they've earned on our list. And I come from a venue that previously that had a very similar philosophy. But I mean, certainly people do it, but I don't think that couples, especially younger couples, respond to it very well.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't like it. They hate it. It's pretty big in European markets. I have a lot of European clients. It's very, very common in Italy and France. American couples hate it. And so my couple planners that do weddings internationally, I told them, I was like, don't do it. You're going to lose American buyers if you do it.
It's interesting because like Braden yesterday talked about being an affiliate for Gusto. Gusto, by the way. He's in Mass.
Yeah.
And
Do you love Gusto?
so passionate about Gusto.
Kira loves Gusto too. Yeah. No, she doesn't.
It'd be like a commonplace mechanism to like get revenue sharing when there's partnerships in a sales process. And
Yeah, I think it's different for this because it is a much more emotional and less transactional purchase.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I just know, like I said, in the European market, it's huge, and it's not working well for the vendors that are trying to tap into it.
Great.
I also want the ability to remove them from my list.
Yeah.
If
Oh, yeah.
my property and they really mess up, or I'm noticing their quality is decreasing, if they're paying me to be on a list for the year, and all of a sudden they start really declining, you're gone.
Yeah, the incentive.
That's a good point.
Kind of
Yeah.
wonky. Makes sense.
I
Yeah.
guess I have a lot of questions about all the comments. Like, it is something that is very prevalent in Baltimore City.
Yeah, I would say some markets, yeah.
It's almost the way to do business. And I guess from my perspective, if I am vetting, if I'm putting you through a process, so, and some of which I've worked with you, so I'm inviting you to be a part of this process. And I have parameters in place for if you are cutting up, you get cut.
Yeah,
You know, I'm trying to understand how I navigate the city I'm in. When this is an actual thing. This
Yeah.
is how we do business. This
Yeah.
is how we're supposed to navigate the city. I'm next door to the convention center, the Oriole Stadium, all the hotels, all the things, and it's kind of like, yeah, I know this particular caterer who's like, yeah, I'll give you 10%, but I also put them through this rigorous process to even,
get on that.
you know, so like I'm trying to navigate that myself.
Yeah.
Some people are like, don't do it, and then most people are like, no, this is how we operate.
That's funny you say Baltimore. I have 2 clients in Baltimore. We've talked to this photographers, and they've decided not to be part of it because of the fact
Well,
that,
I'm not trying to do it for all vendors.
yeah,
Just cater.
catering might, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say catering is a bit, yeah.
I've also been advised, outside of catering, not to do any preferred anything from a planner perspective, photographer perspective, because it gets a little catty in the city. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of, you know, suggestions.
For catering, my verbiage to even my couples, because I'm very transparent, we have a 10% fee to work on our property, but it's for everything that we provide for
Yeah.
catering.
Yeah.
We have a dumpster that we pay for, we have ice maker, refrigerators,
Yeah,
warming
same,
cabinets.
same.
So it's not a kickback, it's
Yeah.
a catering fee to
Yeah.
work on our property.
Okay, that's good. Okay, because I have that and I tell them that's the benefit of being.
Yeah, and that's a bit different is having that fee than versus like a kickback of like, I pay you $100 for that, so,
That makes sense.
yeah.
What I will say is nice about having preferred coordinators, because I worked at a venue where we had specific caterers that could come on, and then we had recommended coordinators. The coordinators know like what your requirements are that are specific to your venue, and because they're on your preferred list, they're kind of venue experts in your space as well. So if you're recommending this, they can provide a higher quality product because they know the space
Yeah.
so well.
I entertain the recommended coordinator planner idea too, because
Yeah.
a lot of, I'm finding that I prefer the folks that have a planner,
Yes.
and I'm trying to help them
I would
navigate
require
that.
a coordinator, at least where I've always done it, we've always done month out. But we allowed them to choose whomever they wanted, but here's who we really recommend, and then we tried to have a couple different tiers. So we had that like month out, day of coordinator, the full service, the high budget, the low budget, and you just need like 4 or 5, and then you kind of cover all your bases for your client base. At least that's what I've seen.
Yeah. Yes.
This is off topic, but can you go back to the all-inclusive? You said that a lot of couples are
They want all-inclusive.
want that. How do you define that? Is that venue, food and bev, or is that like all the vendors?
It kind of, I would say it depends on the type of venue you have. If you're a smaller venue, I would say all-inclusive, including like vendors. Again, it depends. Like if you're doing like a ton of elopements and micro weddings, it can be helpful. But yeah, they definitely want as few vendors as possible in that situation because every vendor is an additional fee that they're not sure about. So I would say definitely we can get some kind of catering and beverage for sure because that scares the crap out of them is finding food in bar is like terrifying. So anything we can do to alleviate that, I would say kind of those core elements, maybe some rentals and things like that. And that way the more like aesthetic ones like photographer, florist, stationery planner, the ones where it's way more like I have to have that person, has that flexibility. Because those are the easiest ones to plop in off of vendor referral than it is to be like finding food and bar and rentals. Like that's just really overwhelming. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you just find your favorite caterer, maker, bar, and you just collaborate with them and then offer it to your client as all-inclusive, and you're really subbing it out to the other
Yeah.
vendors?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients will do that, even like the all-inclusive package that we have for elopements that we helped our client build. Yeah, like they're independently being paid through it. However you do it financially would definitely be more of like an accounting question. Like for them, one person gets paid and then it's filtered through their entities. That's a whole, like how that happens legally is a whole different thing. But yes, like there's ways you can do it where you have partnerships. Sometimes they'll be invoiced directly. It just depends on, I don't know that side.
For the all-inclusive package, do you recommend offering options? Like I have a couple caterers that I work really closely with. Would it be like you can choose from these two caterers or two caterers, or is it just like you get this one?
I think that depends on, again, like your business and your type of client and how much decisions they want to make. I mean, some of our clients have have their ideal client doesn't want to make decisions, and we have others where their ideal client wants to feel really involved in the decision making. So I would say I would go back to more of like what type of couples you're getting in terms of if they want options or not. Because I have some clients where like they don't want options, and I have other clients who are like, I need 47 of them. So, yes.
Yeah, like the all-inclusive package that we offer, like we have one caterer, one planner.
Yeah.
One, like we provide the bar, but we have like one DJ company that does the
Mhm.
all. It just makes it easier. And
Yeah.
They don't have to find anything, and then we pay all the vendors, so
Yeah.
the client pays us.
Yeah.
And then we pay out everybody, so that's how we do it.
I do the opposite. They pay all the vendors directly.
Yeah.
So because they can upgrade their packages, right? They can add on florals, they can add on different food, they can upgrade. So I've negotiated with my vendors and that the price, and then when I connect them all, then they pay deposits to all the vendors. So
Yeah, and I would say whenever we're thinking about marketing stuff like that, whenever we're like, okay, we're going to be offering this, I would just make sure we're talking about like the ease and the efficiency and why you created it, because that's the type of couple who wants something as easy and as fast as possible. So instead of talking about, because we don't want to limit their beliefs around it, right? We don't want them to be like, well, I'm stuck with this caterer. We want to adjust it, because that's going to be a big question you're going to get is, why do I have to use this person for my package? That's where our marketing can step in and our copy, and we can say, we have done this to make it easier for you. We have done this with people that we know are going to show up, they're going to do an exceptional job, and that's why you're like shifting the narrative. So anytime we're thinking about like the content we're writing, we need to be thinking about what are the questions they're going to be asking me about this specific topic, and how can I shift it in a positive light? How can I make it not a negative connotation in any way? How can I be like, we did this to make it easier for you, not you only have one caterer to choose from. Like, we never want to make it feel limited, even when it is. We want them to feel like they still have something.
I think the key is, as a menu owner, when you're thinking about adding all-inclusive, it is what you want to do, but it's more what your demographic.
If they want it, yeah. Yeah.
And you have to read the room and know when they come in, what is it they're looking for. Not that you're not willing to do what you know is best, but you still have to, if you get so much pushback from 90% of the people that come in and say, well, I don't want just one caterer to choose from.
Then you adjust, yeah.
You have to be willing to adjust. You have to read the room, which is why mine is, I don't do my all-inclusive until I get you in for the venue and coordination. I get you booked. I don't force you in the all-inclusive, but I'm gonna upsell that all-inclusive.
Yeah.
And if you say no, I don't tell you who the vendors were in that process until you've put your first payment down on the all-inclusive, but you're still there for the venue and coordination. So
Yeah.
I think you just have to read your demographic, who's coming in and what they want.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's with like all things with marketing, is like how we're positioning you is going to be so different even two vendors in the same city will have completely different marketing types because we have to consider like what is the type of buyer that we're selling to. And so part of like the workbook and the homework that I want you guys to do is as we're going through like each type of decision phase. So for example, for decision, when we're talking about pricing and transparency, I want you guys to be thinking about where can I fit these in my Q1 calendar. I also have a real wedding blog outline because I know it's like, how do I talk about a wedding 700 times? I get it. I literally have 6 blogs to write this afternoon, so like I'm here for it. So I included some of that for you guys. So when it comes to the calendar, so I have an example calendar so you can see how we break stuff down. So the biggest thing is that whenever we're creating a content calendar for our clients, blogging is the core piece. It is the top, it's the biggest, because I can repurpose that 700 ways till Sunday. I cannot repurpose an Instagram post 700 ways. I can only post it a few times. So that's one of the reasons why we consider it a very core part of your marketing, is not just for SEO, because it is obviously for SEO, not just for the client and interaction piece, but it's also because I want to repurpose the heck out of it. I do not want to come up with new content every day. Like that's my job, and I still don't want to do it all the time because like there's no point, right? There's absolutely no reason for me to come up with something brand new every single week. Instead, what we're doing is repurposing. So for example, whenever we have a blog go out, if we have 2 blogs in a month, you only need 1 or 2 in a month. We do not need to be doing every day. We don't need to be doing weekly, literally not really worth your time. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hype that as much as possible. So that one blog post, we're gonna break down and share every single week, multiple times, whether it's in our stories, whether it's in our feed. Because we know we are only getting 5 to 10% of our audience every week looking. And so you might think you've talked about it until the king comes home, but you're not, because not everybody's reading it. So it really is about how we're gonna break those down again and again. And then the other way we like to think of it are around those pillars of that funnel. So have I talked to the awareness part of the funnel this month? No, I gotta put something in this month to talk to that awareness funnel. Have I talked to the trust funnel? How have I talked to the decision-making funnel? When we're able to break them down, it makes it a little bit easier when we're looking at a calendar, because then you can step back and go, okay, I need to talk about awareness. What's it like? Use one of the prompts that I gave you and plug it in and be like, this is my awareness topic. Once you start doing that again and again, it becomes a lot faster because you're not having to think of what do I talk about. Instead, you're looking at the calendar and going, okay, on Tuesday the 7th is gonna be awareness, and on the 23rd is gonna be awareness. And then you just plug and play that way. So that's how we create content calendars for our clients. I'm looking at it like that basic of like, have I touched on this touch point in the month? I fill that in. So when we do it in a spreadsheet. I literally fill it in. I go, okay, this color is talking to this. We do a little bit more buyer type for our clients, but it's the same concept. We have 4 colors we use for our clients. Is it green? Okay, I need to talk about green here, here, and here. I need to talk about red here, here, and here. I need to talk about yellow here, here, and here. We fill out that spreadsheet. Then I write the content based off that. I don't do it based off the visual feed because we can make pictures do anything. What I'm figuring out is, am I talking to those colors? Am I talking to that part of the funnel? And then I put the content in. Makes it way less complicated because you're like, oh, I have a blog that talks about awareness. Pull a sentence or 2 from the blog post, copy and paste it, put it into an Instagram story, and call it a day. It can be that simple. It does not have to be like overly thought out. Does anyone have any questions on like that strategy, how to like create your content calendar? If you're a color-coded person, that's how I do it. So that's why we color code, but some of you guys might not color code like I do. But we found that's easiest for us, for our clients. Any other like final questions? I do have office hours today. I think they're at, so if anyone wants to bring their homework and do it with me, we can do it together. 1:30. I think the signups are either in here or out. They're out there now? Okay. So the signups are out there. So if anyone wants me to look at their website, do a quick audit of something, go through their homework together, I'm also here all week. Well, the next like 2 days. So you're more than like, if you want to like walk through any of these prompts, start writing stuff out together, we can definitely do that too. Any final questions? I gave you a lot of prompts. If you fill out all my prompts, you'll have a whole quarter done in like an hour. So my goal was hopefully to give you guys like, and they're taken just from our internal SOPs. So if you look at our clients' Instagrams, you're going to be like, I've seen that awareness tactic. And the answer is, I use it again and again. Well, thank you guys for coming.